upholding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
We've signed a climate convention on the importance of economic instruments and free markets. Were included in this mammoth Agenda 21 document and the Rio Declaration. Now, let me be clear on one fundamental point. The United States fully intends to be the world's preeminent leader in protecting the global environment.
Coming up, Technocracy News. Good morning. This is Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. Today is March 25, 2019. We have some very interesting stories in the queue today. First off, we're going to start out with a little discussion about electric car batteries. Everybody has a pretty good idea of what kind of electric cars are on the road today, especially Tesla, which is always in the news, it seems. Every one of these cars has battery packs that are installed in it in order to run the electric motor. In almost all cases, I believe maybe all cases, these are lithium-ion batteries. And the battery packs themselves are interesting in that they can drive a car perhaps for 200 miles, but look out, if you get in a wreck and that battery pack catches on fire, you're in trouble. Well, at least the first responders are in trouble, because what they found is that once these car batteries catch on fire, they're almost impossible to put out in a short period of time. They require incredible amounts of water to be poured on them to cool them off enough to stop the fires altogether. But they burn extremely hot, and they continue to release energy as the fire continues. So in many cases, firemen have been able to put out the fire, and then they're towing the car away, and all of a sudden, boom, it erupts in fire again. This has happened in some cases 2, 3, 4 times. So they're still trying to figure out exactly how to extinguish a car fire. And another danger is the high voltage wires that are inside the car that stretch around the car between the battery and the motor and the back assembly, taillights, and so on. The cables, if cut, can deliver a very extreme electric shock. This hasn't really been considered either, but if you're in an accident and your car gets mangled up enough to where some of the cables are snapped, like in the ones going through the door and so on, and you could potentially get a very bad shock, including electrocution. Well, yeah, these electric car batteries are interesting technology, to be sure, but they're not nearly as safe as what they were originally intended to be. Furthermore, the entire crop of lithium batteries that are out there now in automobiles, like Tesla, this first generation of cars, first wave of cars, is about to come due for battery recycling. They don't last forever, and they do come to the end of their useful life, and if you own a Tesla and keep it for a long period of time, you will end up having to replace the batteries. And believe me, that's not like replacing the batteries in your flashlight. Costs a lot of money. You'll end up paying recycling fees for the battery as well. So there's a lot of extra costs and extra ramifications in electric vehicles that nobody has really paid much attention to. They are now, and they should. But if you own an electric vehicle, my best advice is don't get in a wreck. And if your motor or your battery starts smoking, get the heck out of your car and put some distance between you and the car right away. Don't take a chance that battery's going to take off on you and could potentially burn the car before you could get out. Enough for that. Well, here's a very positive story. This is good news. There's a backlash in cities and states against companies who are trying to push the cashless society. You've all heard of these instances where stores like Amazon Go, for instance, are completely doing away with cash, and you pay with your smartphone. You walk through the door, your smartphone is registered, and you pick up all your stuff and bag it up, and you walk out. And by the time you walk out, Amazon Go knows everything you have in the bag or whatever, and they simply just charge your credit card right there on the spot. No cashier necessary. All they need to do is have stockers inside the store to replenish the shelves. But while the move to cashlessness is pretty well known around the world today, the global elite are pushing the cashless society because this promotes technocracy, that is, control over all economic matters. Many cities and states now are telling them where to take it. This is wonderful news. I've said for a long time, in fact, ever since this topic came up, that cities have the power to tell any company working within their city limits, you use cash or get out. It's just that simple. This used to happen, by the way, with big box stores that would go into, try to get into towns. They go to the city council and say, we want to build a big store here, whether it be a Walmart or some kind of a Lowe's or something, one of these big box stores. And the city council says, no, we're protecting our industry here. We have plenty of stores, thank you, get lost. And these big box companies simply walk away. They know they can't stand up against, that kind of, won't say prejudice, but they can't stand up against that kind of logic. They get out. We don't want you here. So they left. Well, guess what? City councils can do that to any company that says we're not accepting cash. And it's absolutely ridiculous. On every dollar bill, it says this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. How could it be more obvious? But companies like Amazon figure, we don't care what the law says. We're going to do what we want to do because we think we can make more money this way. Well, I'm sorry, in America, you can't make more money that way. In America, cash is still the way to pay for many people, the only way to pay for the products they want to buy in a store. So in a very real way, in any given city where stores don't accept cash, citizens are deprived of buying goods and services in that store. This also hurts the city economy as well. But there are many people in any city in America that simply don't use credit cards. They don't want to use credit cards. It should be their choice. So they pay with cash. And of course, there's a lot of people in kind of a hybrid mode. They use credit card for some things and they use cash for other things. Well, I say a tip of the hat to any city who stands up and says, not in our town. You're not doing that here. We will retain cash, or you simply won't do business here. We won't give you a business license. So they have a choice. They either knuckle under and accept cash, as they should, or they get out of town. I guess that's an easy choice. Well, here's another not quite so good story, but it has to do with 5G and China's race to dominate the field. China has declared many times that it wants to be the leader in 5G rollout, not only in their country, but around the world, and even more importantly, they want to be the leader in setting the standard for 5G. This is kind of what the race is all about. Now, remembering that China is a technocracy in the first place, they're moving towards scientific dictatorship. Pretty much anybody that looks at China understands this now. They're not playing communist games anymore. They're playing technocracy games. And the sooner that they can get all of their Internet of Things connected in their country, they can perfect and fine-tune their scientific dictatorship that they have over their subjects. They have a lot of subjects, by the way, 1.4 billion people. That's a good percentage of the world's population. So China has declared that they're going to be the leader in 5G technology and 5G rollout and 5G devices that are made by Huawei that can be sold all around the world. They wanted to sell their products to the United States by the truckload, by the shipload. And the United States basically has said, no, we're a little bit leery now because we're afraid that Huawei, since it's connected to the Chinese government, has put a back door into this technology to where they can do things that we can't see or know about. And it's a legitimate concern because Huawei and China in general has been known for their espionage activities. So the United States has said, no, we're not going to completely go along with that and just buy Huawei products, 5G products, nilly-willy. And so the United States has been betting on a company named Qualcomm to fill in the gap and supply America with 5G technology that's made here, supposedly made here in America. Well, this is kind of unraveling as an argument because what's happened is China is so far ahead of us right now, it's not even funny. They own twice as many patents as we do on standard setting issues with 5G. They have more equipment that's already immediately available through Huawei and a couple of other companies. And plus, they're pouring billions and billions of dollars into rolling out 5G within their own country. They are intent on being the global leader, and at this point, they are. So what's a nation to do? I'm afraid at this point, there's not a whole lot because China is so far ahead of us and everybody else for that matter, by the way. But one thing we can know for certain, that as China perfects the technology of scientific dictatorship from the top down and from the bottom up, there will be nothing stopping them from exporting the entire package to other countries around the world. This means eventually it's going to consume America as well. This is one of the great dangers of technocracy. It's scientific dictatorship in the end. People have seen this over the decades. They forecasted this even going back to 1932 with Aldous Huxley's book, Brave New World. If you haven't ever read that, go pick up a used copy and read it. Great science fiction at the time, and still is, because you wonder how could somebody even dream of the things that are in Brave New World back in 1932? Well, partly because the people that invented technocracy as an economic system in the first place, they rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest scientists in the world. And they were visionaries, definitely. They didn't have the technology yet, but they saw where it was going, and they knew that they would one day have that technology available. So we watch China as they move forward, and we watch the battle with Huawei. The United States is jawboning the rest of the world right now, trying to stir up the national security issues where other countries are trying to persuade other countries, let me put it that way, to not buy Huawei products because of national security concerns. Maybe that's legitimate, maybe not, but they're hoping, the United States is hoping that will slow down the Chinese race for dominance. And only time will tell. But it's not a good trend in general, and it's something that we can kind of follow on with. Watch now that we've brought this up again in Technocracy News, you know what to look for, and you know how to connect the dots when you see them, when they need connecting. Well, I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. If you haven't picked up a copy of Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order yet, you can buy it on Amazon.com or on Technocracy News. That is technocracy.news. And I always like to send out an autographed copy if you buy it from Technocracy News. And if you're looking for multiple copies to hand out to friends and stuff, you need to go to Technocracy News to do that. Amazon does not offer a discount schedule for multiple copies. But I can do that on technocracy.news, and I do. In fact, when you get up to 10 books, the discount is 50% off of retail. This is effectively what bookstores will get if they come to buy books from a distributor. They can usually expect a 50% discount. But they only get that 50% discount if they buy 40 or 50 books minimum. Well, I've reduced that minimum down to 10 for consumers because there is a need for people to pass this material around, get more Americans involved. Another thing as well that would be greatly appreciated if you can head over to patreon.com/technocracy. You can make a pledge of any amount of money to support this work. The podcast, the website, there's lots of expenses that accumulate on this pretty quickly. I need help to keep this service on the air. I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. Hope you have a great day.